Welcome back to Afternoon Live. The ending of a relationship often means dividing up stuff, but what if that stuff includes beloved pets? Here with advice on what to do when things get complicated, we welcome family law attorney Nandishi Bekah. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Hannah. Thank you so much for having me.
So, I would imagine that people are often surprised when they're going through a breakup, how complicated things can get with who gets the pet and how does it work.
All the time. I mean, in my practice, we've seen the gambit of issues, anywhere from simple divorces to parents fighting over their kids. And now, when you throw in pets in the mix, it gets even more emotionally loaded and more complex. There are things that people don't think about, like, who gets the pet on weekends, who pays for vet bills, what kind of food, what kind of clothing, what kind of grooming, how much is that going to cost? There's so many things to consider when relationships break down that it's often very difficult for pet owners to kind of decide what to do in the midst of everything else that's going on during a breakup.
And I imagine depending on where you live, there could be some significant gaps in family law, and maybe there isn't that much infrastructure for people to kind of guide them through this process.
That's right. Pets right now are considered personal property. What that means in the law is that pets are akin to no more than your couch or your table or your TV set. And you can imagine that to owners, that's rather inadequate because obviously they view their pets as members of their families. So the gap exists because the law treats pets as property, and with property, we deal with splitting assets and attributing a value. But how do you attribute a value to something that has such an emotional attachment to somebody who's owned a living pet that they've cared for and loved and that has become part of their family? So it is very difficult to sometimes figure out how to divide the pet in the midst of a breakup.
Tips for families in terms of just first steps or a framework to think about making up an agreement that will kind of help them navigate this process?
Yeah, absolutely. So the beauty about having agreements in place is that you have the ability to craft an agreement that suits your unique circumstances and your unique needs. Agreements give the power back to the people who are entering into the agreement because they're able to nuance certain clauses and make an agreement that suits their lifestyle, what they need, that doesn't necessarily have to mesh with what a court of law would determine had this issue gone to court rather than a private agreement.
And what about things like medical bills? I mean, our pets can get so expensive when it comes to seeing the vet and all those things. Are people kind of blindsided when those things happen? And wait a minute, are you supposed to help me pay for this? How am I supposed to afford all this stuff?
Yeah, I mean, these questions come up all the time. When you draft an agreement, there's so many things that have to be considered. There's things like, we call them parenting schedules for children, but the same goes for pets. Who gets to keep the pet? Do they stay with one person? Is it split between both people? Who makes decisions for the pet? That means if there's, an emergency medical procedure that needs to happen, or if the pet needs to be put down, who gets to make that decision? Financials play a big part in all of that. Obviously, as you said, pets can get expensive. There's food, there's vet bills, there's medicine, there's grooming, there's, sometimes there's like care, like doggy daycare, things like that. And when you get into an agreement, you're able to find a solution that works for both people. Sometimes, pet owners will say, let's divide the cost 50-50. If the pet resides with one party over another, then maybe the person that is taking care of the dog primarily will be responsible for the bulk of the financials. So it really gives the parties the liberties to craft an agreement that really suits their lifestyle and their needs.
What about putting pets into a prenuptial agreement ahead of time? Do you think that that would help save people some heartache in the long run?
Great question. So, prenups are done specifically to try to avoid conflict when relationships break up. So, it's always good to enter into prenups when everybody's getting along and you have, your clear views about what you want to happen in the event that a relationship breaks down. Pets are no different. I mean, it would be great if parties can consider what would happen in contemplation of a relationship ending. What would happen with that pet? Is it a situation where one party brings the pet into a relationship? Is it a pet that's acquired together throughout the relationship or in contemplation of a marriage? So things like that can certainly be stipulated in a prenup, so to speak, or any other form of domestic contract, like a marriage contract. And it's always good to get ahead of the issues rather than deal with them after the fact when, there's so much more emotion that comes out of breakups. When you get ahead of it, you're able to kind of streamline and foresee what the issues might be and figure out a way sensibly to deal with them before it becomes a problem.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense that way. We love our pets and we want the best for them. So thinking ahead is great advice. Hey, thank you so much for stopping by. It was great chatting with you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we will have more
Have a great
information
day.
on our website at katu.com. We'll be right back with more Afternoon Live right after this.